Welcome. My name is Maryse, and I would like to speak with you today about the subject of vegetarism. Now I'm probably going to say a lot of positive things about vegetarism in this video. But before I do that, I would tell you right here now that I personally would never ever advise someone to become a vegetarian. Because if you decide with your mind to become a vegetarian, then you're using willpower. You might decide it because it's hip. You might decide it because you actually think it is a right and good thing to be a vegetarian. But if you have still carvings for meat or fish rising from your body, you better give a little way to those carvings. If you don't do that, if you suppress those carvings with willpower, these carvings will turn inwards towards your subconsciousness, and one day they will rise again even more strong than ever before. You will have now even more carving, greater carvings, longer carvings for meat and fish. Or they might rise, but wear a different mask. You might become a person that is more irritated than he was before, more angry or more fearful. There's many masks to be worn for suppressed carvings. But honestly, I'm not over-exaggerating. If you have real strong carvings that you suppress with mental power for long times, you might end up even killing someone. So, don't decide with your mind to become a vegetarian. That is not good for your own spiritual development. But I do want to invite you here in this video to take a little time to put a little love and a little effort in the subject of vegetarism. Most of you spend so much time watching television, reading newspapers, reading magazines, and gossiping with friends. Take a little of that time and put it again in the search for vegetarism. Go on the internet, there is so much to read about it. Because vegetarism is a good thing for the planet, and not in the last place, a very good thing for your own beautiful body. I'm not going to give you a lot of facts and details here. You can find that all on the internet. But I want to give you the big lines why vegetarism is a good thing. Now, first of all, this enormous livestock is inhaling oxygen and producing CO2 back into the air. Personally, I couldn't believe the numbers, how much CO2 they actually produce, and it is a threat for the ozone layer. Now, the other big thing with vegetarianism is that a cow needs to eat lots and lots of grains and plants before it has grown into an animal which can be used for meat. With 1 kilo of meat, you might be able to give 10 people a piece of meat or 1 ounce of 100 grams. But imagine, there are so many plants necessary, there's so much food necessary to come to that 1 kilo of meat. With that 1 kilo you can feed 10 people. But with the plants that were needed to produce the 1 kilo, you can feed 1,000 people. And this makes the whole thing a very cruel thing, because you and I know that half of this population, the human population on the planet, is starving to death. And without our livestock we would have an abundance of food for every human being on the planet. Our livestock actually consumes more than half of the food that is necessary to feed our own starving half. Now a third thing is the killing. A few years ago we had the film The Killing Fields, and it shocked the whole world to see how a bridge was built with human skulls only, so soldiers could walk over it. We think that war is in the past, but go in meditation and connect with our livestock, because this planet today is still one big, overwhelming killing field for animals. And we all love our lives. You know that when you fall sick or death comes near, and then you suddenly feel how good life is, and that is worthwhile living, and that same feeling you have inside, that life is worth it living, counts for animals. You've ever seen an animal run for its life when threatened by death? Take my word for it. An animal will do anything to prevent its life from ending. For the animal, it's worth living. And how can it be? How can it be that just in order to be able to enjoy my life, other lives have to end? Is not right, and you all know it, deep down in your psychic you know it. That is not right. Well, that in order for you to live your life, another life has to end. Now, beside the whole killing thing is the way we treat these fellow living creatures on this planet. Because we need so much meat and fish on such large scales that the farmers put them in very small cages with literally no room to move, so they grow fat easily. And you only have to ask yourself, would I want to spend my life in a cage like that? And if the answer is no, it is sort of awkward that you let that happen to other living creatures. It doesn't make sense. And don't think I say this because I'm a woman. For I have a silent mind, and my emotion area therefore is quiet too. I say this from the depth of my being, out of compassion with my fellow creatures, living creatures on this planet. Is it not right? And you know it. And another big thing is the eating of fish. Now, if you would stop anything or look into anything, look into the fish industry first. Because with sonar and radar, we fish our oceans empty. And that is a huge disturbance for the balance in the oceans. And we can't easily replace that. So if anything has to stop, it is the empty fishing of our oceans. Now another thing with eating fish is that the fish during all his life filters the water of the ocean through his, I don't know the English word for it, but the part where he inhales. And through this filtering of the water of the ocean, a lot of toxic heavy metals collect through the years inside the fish. So the eating of fish, polluted fish, out of our polluted oceans is not that healthy at all. And heavy metals are a real serious threat to the good health of your beautiful body. Now, these days, there are also a lot of fish farmers that breed the fish artificially in a sort of swimming pools. They have filtering systems, so they try to keep the water clean. But the problem is that these fish are mostly fed with rest materials from the fish industry. So when fishers go fishing in the ocean, they have a lot of fish and leftover living creatures which can't be used. They are dried and crunched, and this leftover of the fish industry is often fed to the fish in the artificial swimming pools. So in that way they still take in a lot of heavy metals. And these artificially bred fish, they need to swallow a lot of antibiotics to keep them healthy, because with so many fish stocked in a basin, disease break out easily. And often the antibiotica is not only given when there's an actual breakout of diseases, but also given in advance as prevention. So this artificial bred fish is really both on antibiotics and rest leftovers of other medicine and heavy metals. Not a good thing to eat. And more or less this counts for the meat too. Also cows and pigs and chicken often are fed antibiotics in order to prevent diseases from breaking out. Now another thing with this livestock is that I want to talk with you about the illusion that is given to you by your medical doctors and by the food industry. For often is said that fish and meat would be something the human body needs to build up muscle or to gain other benefits from. Well, that is total bullshit. A human being will live perfectly healthy and happy without a single piece of meat and a single piece of fish. And the proteins provided by fish and meat are not quite the proteins a human body needs to build up muscle structure. The best way for a human body to build up muscle structure is out of plant protein, plant-based protein. The world champion heavy weightlifting in America, a male, the most muscled male in the world, is a vegetarian. And a tennis player like Martina Navratilova, who was extremely muscled for a woman, was a vegetarian. Now, if these huge bulls can be so muscled with only eating grass, it is of course totally nonsense, total nonsense, that one should eat meat in order to build up muscles. It's not true. And this is explained also very well by the managing director of the Hippocrates Health Institute, Florida, West Palm Beach. They have a fantastic website with a lot of information about these subjects. And I would even go this far to say that if you want a healthy body with a good muscle tone, you better eat no fish and no meat at all. Because fish and meat are acid-forming foods. And any sort of acid-forming food is undermining your good health. I'm a vegetarian for more than 20 years. And I'm perfectly happy and healthy and vital. And I never made an issue even of eating plant protein. It's just not true. Really, take my word for it. Everyone is better off from a scientific point of view a pure mathematical point of view if you don't touch any meat or fish. It's just not good for the body. And it undermines your good health. And yet again I say, if you still have carvings, give a little way to them. Don't suppress them. But put some love and time and energy in this phenomena called vegetarism. It will do you and the planet a lot of good. Go on the internet and find it out. Put some love, some time, some effort in it. Because with every thing you discover in this field, you become, slowly by slowly, little by little, a bit more a vegetarian. And in the end, the vegetarian you are will manifest with no willpower needed. And then you are a vegetarian. No decisions involved. You just naturally became one. And this is the way to go. Now, I have 4 sons and 1 daughter. And although I was a vegetarian long before they were born, I let them decide in their own time, in their own way, if they want to be a vegetarian. I just gave them time so the vegetarian could rise inside them. And the first one who became a vegetarian was my second son. When he was 5 years old, he was sitting with his brother of 7 years old in the back of my car. And I had to stop for a traffic light. And at the moment I wanted to pull up, my second son said, "Mama, what is that here next to us?" And I turned my head and I saw a huge truck with 3 layers of pigs in wooden cradles, and their heads were sticking out and you could see their legs. And probably this 5-year-old kid really looked into the faces of these pigs, because my car was here and the truck was right next to us. So I think it was not even 1 meter separating my son from the pigs. And they were obviously on their way to the slaughterhouse. So I answered my son, I said, "Well, that is a truckload of pigs heading for the slaughterhouse." He said, "Are they really going to the slaughterhouse?" I said, "Yes. Where else can they go?" And that evening he said to me, "Mama, I'm going to be a vegetarian." And I said, "Are you sure? Because you like to eat the salmon and the chicken?" I said, "I'm absolutely sure. I don't want to have anything to do with that kind of beautiful animal going to the slaughterhouse." Only 5 years old. I think he sort of saw how alive and intelligent these pigs actually are. And that is really a shame, just to kill them because you have some meat. And the special thing was that this kid never eat any pork meat anyway. So he didn't actually have any contribution already, because I never fed the children pork meat. But even that argument didn't convince him. He said, no, I'm going to be a vegetarian for the rest of my life. And then his older brother kept on asking me questions. Is it really, and how do they do it, and how do they kill them, and where did they come from, and why are there so many in one truck, and don't they catch a cold if they transport it like that, and etc. And after 2 weeks of questions, he said, Mama, I'm going to be a vegetarian too. Now, that was a beautiful moment in my life, to see two men, young males, 5 and 7 years old, rising like vegetarians from the depth of their being, not because of any mental decision, but something in their being rose, and out of compassion they said, no more of this. And although my daughter that followed had 2 big brothers and a mother that were vegetarian, she kept on eating meat till she was 12 years old. She loved her little meatballs and the chicken so much, and it sort of never really got to her, this vegetarianism, but she knew, of course, that she was the only one of us. And then when she turned 11, I saw her doing something curious. I always put the chicken, because in those days she only wanted chicken. She already didn't want to have to do anything with meatballs anymore or with fish. The only thing she still ate was chicken. And I would put the chicken in her plate, but she would just eat a little of it. And after a month she wouldn't touch it anymore. And I would keep on putting it on her plate and she wouldn't touch it. And after a long time, she said, okay, Mummy, it's on my plate, but I don't want it anymore. You don't have to put it on my plate anymore, because I'm free now. I never ever need to take it again. But she sort of needed like a safety tie, where the chicken would be still available, and she wanted to test herself if she could stay off it. Beautiful to see. And it was an equally happy and illuminating day when she decided to become a vegetarian. And then my youngest son, at 8 years old, he watched a movie about a chicken factory. And you don't want to know how they treat these chickens. They take them by their feet, hang them alive on an iron hook, then the machine spins them around and something cuts their throat. But this throat cutting doesn't really kill them completely. So they're still on the line going, moving, half alive, and their feathers are stripped. But for my youngest son, it wasn't even the way how they killed the chicken. It was the little ones, the babies, these fluffy yellow ones. They were also going on moving machines by the dozen, falling, literally falling into boxes with like 100 in one box. And then other people would grab them with plastic clothes, living little babies, and throw them onto the next machine. It was stunning how you can treat something so lovely and so cute and so small still, like that. And that was a trigger for him. He said, I will never ever eat a piece of chicken in my life again. But of course, he had the living example already of two big brothers and a sister and a mother being vegetarians. And when he decided, his twin brother followed a few weeks later. They all did it in their own way. They all did it in their own time. What helped this vegetarian a little to rise and stand up from out of your psychic being by putting love, time and effort in informing himself what is really going on in this industry. Thank you for listening.